Hi, my name's Maddie. So I did my project on the article called NASA Funds 8 New Projects Exploring Connections Between the Environment and COVID-19. This relates to what we're learning right now just because it talks a little bit about how the environment affects our food security, fire ecology, air pollution, precipitation, as well as our water quality in aquatic ecosystems. So just to summarize this article a little bit, it's a research project funded by the Rapid Turnabout Grant. Basically, we're trying to figure out how does the impact of the stay-at-home order impact the environment, and how does the environment affect how the virus spreads. Again, they're researching food security, fire ecology, surface heat, clouds, warming, air pollution, precipitation, water quality, and the ecosystems. And then again, how does the environment impact the spread of COVID? They're monitoring how it's spread by the dust and weather. So as far as how it impacts the crops, they found that because of the reduced air and ground travel, it actually caused the demand for ethanol to plummet, and actually making the corn prices to decline. And this stay-at-home order made it really difficult for farmers to travel to other farms and collect more information about crop planting, progress conditions, and a lack of this community communication within that community actually made it hard for these farmers to predict prices as the growing seasons progressed. This research project, was specifically actually monitoring the soybeans in the U.S. as well as the winter wheat in Russia. One of the really big things that we've seen in the last couple of months is forest fires. COVID-19 actually really impacted our fires as far as social distancing orders. The U.S. Forest Fire Service temporarily actually suspended all of our prescribed burns, or the fires burned on purpose in the southeast area since March. And they're trying to figure out, track these forest fires by visible infrared imaging to understand a little bit more about how this social distancing affected them. And the social distancing measures is really impacting us a little bit closer to home by eliminating large camps of firefighters living in close quarters. That can't really happen because you can't stay more than 6 feet or less than 6 feet away, and it makes it difficult to fight fires here in the western states. A professor by the name Gabrielle Villarani, she's a professor at University of Iowa. She's researched the connection between reduced air pollution during this pandemic, as well as a sharp decrease in precipitation here in the U.S. She found that fewer aerosols is fewer precipitation. Some states actually experienced less than 50% of their predicted precipitation, she found. And she came up with a comprehensive climate model just to help his team pinpoint to the extent how much these aerosols can actually affect us, which is really important. There's some researchers by the name of Robert Griffin, the impact of the water quality in Belize. He's really excited because this pandemic actually created a natural experiment just to understand how these urban pollutants actually affect the water and the coral reef health, which is something we're learning in class. This is because of the decrease in tourism impacting the urban and agricultural sources of pollutants like nitrogen, phosphorus, and the water quality off the coast. Another big thing that actually impacts how they're monitoring how the disease spreads is by dust storms. a professor at the University of Puerto Rico in San Juan by the name of Pablo Mendez. He's trying to figure out how the environment affects the spread of COVID-19 with the African dust that actually travels from the Caribbean between the May and August time. See if this has a significant impact on the health and mortality rate associated with this virus. He found that microorganisms in these dust particles actually are linked to infectious diseases, which is really important to know. And yeah, and then the last part is that it affected weather, air quality. Yulia, she's a professor at University of Texas. She's trying to figure out a link between air temperature and humidity, and how that impacts our transmission rates, as well as the link between aerosols and the COVID severity and mortality. She's trying to use this information to predict any kind of future waves of COVID. If we have a flu season, if we have a COVID season, using that information to better prepare ourselves. And she's trying to figure out patterns between population characteristics, age, gender, ethnicity, income, and predict any kind of other patterns that we may have. I thought this article was interesting in particular just because it really hits close to home to all of us, something we can relate to, something we see pretty on the regular nowadays. But yeah, thanks.